I'm Jake Bruton, and today on The Build Show, I want to share with you one of my methods for tool storage that I think of it as a secret weapon. Okay, so I haven't always had a camper shell on my truck. In fact, I had racks or a headache rack until the last couple years. But I have had this same basic setup for somewhere 2008, 2009, somewhere in there. And basically the same design. So this is a homemade toolbox that is 4 sheets of plywood, and that was it. Screws and glue. And the drawers extend to a full 8 feet. I can get whatever I need out of them. I can push them back in by myself. They're not terribly heavy. My 8-year-old can move them by himself. But it's an interesting concept. There are manufacturers that make something of the sort. There's a manufacturer that just makes a rollout metal tray. There's a manufacturer that makes a whole system where everything latches together and is watertight. I will tell you that this is version number 5 or version number 4, somewhere in there. And this is the first one that's been under the camper shell. Every other one had been completely exposed to the elements, and still same basic construction methods with just oil-based primer and paint on it. And I had one that lasted 4.5 years without any problems, and I only got rid of it because I was putting the camper shell on. And then a year and a half into having the camper shell, I got tired of climbing to the front to dig things out. So a couple of the interesting things here. Number one, my F350 has a locking tailgate. So the box is heavy enough and fits snug enough that you'll never be able to just lift it out and steal the tools. You would have to get into the bed and cut it open with a circular saw, or take the screws loose. But once it's painted, I painted the last one black, and it just looked like a bed liner. So it's locked in place when the tailgate's closed or when the camper shell is closed. It is watertight because it has a drainable system in the bottom. There isn't a solid piece of plywood on the bottom. There's just some 1-bys that run horizontally and then down the sides. So it actually sits up off the bed and it gives drying. It almost has like a rain screen underneath. And then there are no rollers or casters or locking hardware or anything like that. The edges of the drawer boxes stick down 1/4 inch over the base. And so the edges ride on the 1-bys underneath, and we paste wax the underneath side, and then the drawers can slide, and they're only contacting that 1/4 inch by 3/4 by 8 foot long section, and it fully supports. There's also no stop to keep the drawer from coming out. So if you mess up and leave the tailgate open and you gun it, you might have a drawer slide out. But the reason for no stop is I don't want to have to take something loose if I have to take this out of the bed of the pickup. I've taken this one, since I loaded it, twice out of the bed of the pickup. And one of those 2 times, my 8-year-old helped me unload it, slide the drawer out, set the drawer on the ground, slide it over and drop it, do the same thing with the second drawer, drag the top out and set it on top of those, leave it in the garage, empty truck bed for hauling mulch and things like that on the weekend. A couple other items of note with this. I made this to a specific height that I wanted that fit the items that I'm putting in here. I have one screw gun case that I've had forever that I built that I wanted to still be able to put in here and use. So the whole thing is based off of that height and one other measurement. If I were to take the camper shell off, this sits down far enough that I can lay a 6-foot, 8-foot, or a 4-foot ladder on top and not have to tie it in. It will still be captured by the edges of the bed. I've never had a problem with this system since I came to this design. I tried it a couple other ways beforehand. One, I bought a ton of rollers and it was incredibly difficult to move because it was very heavy. And then another one had a couple other small design flaws. I have figured out that this, just poking a hand hole in it, is best, because when the tailgate's closed, we don't get enough rain in it to ever matter. I did drill some drain holes in the last one. This one doesn't have that because I have the camper shell and it's dry all the time. But I've taken something that would cost thousands of dollars potentially for a manufactured solution, and that manufactured solution would be a universal style solution, and I've turned it into a solution that caters to my needs and my wants and my setup. and I've done it for $200. I know plywood's not as cheap as it was one day, but $200 and a long Saturday, and I was able to knock this one together. It works just fine. Everybody on my crew can access. Everybody in my crew knows that I keep the things that they forget about in here, like extra paint brushes, extra Sawzall blades, extra cords, things like that. So think about building your own toolbox. It doesn't seem like something that I would have ever promoted or thought would work until I did it, and it worked. And this is almost 12, 13 years of having a homemade toolbox in the bed of my pickup, and it works great. Till next time on The Build Show, don't forget to subscribe to the newsletter. Don't forget to every week get that email from Matt Reisinger telling you about all the cool stuff that everybody's putting out, Wade and Brent and Steve and myself. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram. It's jake.bruton on Instagram. Thanks for watching.